Oh, okay. 7:59, almost 8 p.m. I'll give it a minute. I gotta adjust myself here.
Why does Jesus have on sunglasses and a Christmas hat?
Look at that, huh? Could you read my shirt?
So many things I could say.
I know.
What does it say?
Hey, all we can say is Ronald McDonald loves me. That we know.
Ronald McDonald.
Yes, the McDonald's. Yep. We know the McDonald's story.
We know it.
I so want to say something. Can I say it?
No, you can't. We're live now. This is a family show.
Park and ride. Oh, new meaning.
I wanted him to have a shirt on that said "World's Longest Health," but it's.
Okay, we're starting, everyone. Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
How's everyone doing? I want to show Chip this before we get started here. Chip Coffey is joining us. We'll be talking with Chip for an hour, maybe a little bit more, but Chip hasn't seen this yet. I want to get Chip's honest impression of.
I have no words. I think you should have those. Reproduced in mass quantities and sell them in a McDonald's parking lot.
Oh, wow. I think they're free handouts. And yes. Anyway, inside jokes. Good evening, everyone. How's everyone doing? Here we are, a mere 5 days away from Christmas, right? And look who's with us. Our tradition, Mr. Chip Coffey, the legend. See, Chip, I drink the Coke Zero. See, that's the good.
I will tell you what's in my solo cup.
That's the no sugar stuff. The stuff you should be drinking. Coke Zero. Anyway, how are you, Chip? How you been?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
Good. So,
hi, Chris.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
Haven't seen you since the Expo, right? Which we had a good time, and Chip was there with his whole entourage. Chip has 3 bodyguards, 2 assistants. How many people there with Chip?
He had an entourage.
I didn't.
Well,
I just in case Roger's watching this evening,
which he is.
Roger was, as always, an amazing help. Above and beyond what he should have done. He was great. Roger is one of the volunteers at the New Jersey Para-Unity event, and he's amazing. Yep. He already has told me that if I'm coming back next year, so is he. So, yeah, that's it.
He's a good friend. He's a very good friend of ours.
How's the hair, Chip? Good.
Wait a minute. Now Jesus has on a base.
He's a man of many hats.
So, Chip, by the way, that dinner that we all went to when you were in town. Oh, that's right. We didn't.
We're busy people.
We weren't invited to that dinner. I forgot. Anyway.
You were not even you were such wuss at the end of that day that there was nothing left of you to sweep up.
This is true.
It's the truth.
You're right.
It's dead on truth.
I did take one of your volunteers and 2 of your attendee fans that went to dinner with me that night. So anything is possible.
So Chip, let's talk about anything in the works that you're working on. I know you were on Jack Osborne's show.
I was.
How was that whole thing?
It was amazing. It was amazing.
People watched that. Talk about the experience working with the Osbornes. What was that like for you?
I had a lovely experience working on the 3 episodes that I did with the Osbornes. I did 1 episode with Jack and his mom, Sharon. And then I did 2 episodes with Jack and Kelly. Just amazing people. I was treated very well by them and by the crew. It was overall a very, very lovely experience working on those episodes. I loved it. I can't say enough positive things about that experience.
Had you met them prior to?
I had met Jack. I met Jack because I did an episode when he and Katrina were doing Portals to Hell.
Right.
I did an episode with Jack and Katrina.
I forgot all about that. Right.
And then it was my first time meeting Sharon and my first time meeting Kelly when I did the first episode with Jack and Kelly at Nevada State Penitentiary. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot that you had done that show.
No, but I was shocked when you told me that Kelly has the gift.
Kelly's amazing. Kelly's a wonderful psychic and medium. I don't know where she's at with trying to manifest that further, develop that further, but she came across with some great stuff. And I do think Kelly has some real latent abilities that she could and should, if you want my opinion, seek to further those abilities.
Yeah.
Good.
So I want to. It's going to get a little depressing for a little while because you can't not talk to a medium and not get a little depressing for a little while. I do have to say, I talk about this to everyone that I talk to about mediums and about who are real mediums and who are just whatever mediums. Chip did a reading for me. He didn't have to. We were talking on the phone. Believe it or not, Chip does talk to me, mostly because he likes Chris, but I just happen to be on the line and he's forced to talk to me. But we were talking about my mom who had passed during COVID, and Chip gave me a personal private reading. And I tell people to this day, when he started, I said, "You're not going to make me cry. You're not going to make me cry." And he made me cry within 5 minutes. And I'm going to show you, Chip. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, because you do have to see this. He still talks about this to everybody.
He's not going to pull off clothes or anything like that, right? No.
All right, hold on 1 second. So we're doing the reading, and Chip mentioned first something about a shake. Chip had no idea that my sister's severely handicapped, and my mom took care of her before my mom passed, and everything my sister had to eat had to be pureed. So everything was a shake. Then Chip says to me, "Your mom keeps showing me a blue heart, like a bubble."
There it is, Chip.
I love it.
And again, without getting emotional, it sits on my mother's urn, which is literally across from where I am. I'm looking right at it now. And he said she keeps showing me, what is it with the blue bubble heart? And I gave this to my mom when I was 8 years old. I bought it at a flea market for Mother's Day. After I never knew what happened to it until she passed, and I found it in her room, and it sits on her urn. And again, I love Chip. We both love Chip as a person. What he gave me that day was priceless. And that I called Chip before my mom passed, and I said, "Chip," I literally begged him because I was desperate. "Please tell me there's something beyond life," because I knew I was going to lose my mother. I said, "What do I do?" And he said to me, "John," and he was very honest with me. He said, "Nothing I'm going to say is going to help you through this." And he said, if I tell you there is something beyond, it's not going to help you. Nothing's going to help you through this. You have to go through this. And I did. And then he gave me that. When he gave me that reading, I knew it was my mom telling him. And it made me feel so good because, again, we all want those messages. Every single one of us that have lost someone. And again, I talk about that to anyone who will listen, Chip. I can't thank you enough for that gift because it really gave me so much faith and hope, and that there is an afterlife and the messages can come. There's one thing about wondering about it, and what you did that, it was like, oh my God, it's my mom. I knew it was my mom. I know it.
And you know him. He's such a skeptic, and he just doesn't. He's a cynic. Let's go beyond skeptic. He's a cynic about things, and for him to acknowledge and say that what you did, he'll tell everybody and anyone that'll listen that you are the real deal. No way that you could have known any of the private stuff that you gave, because it's extremely private, and it blew him away, and it helped the process of his healing when he lost his mom.
Big time.
I'm glad I was able to do that for you.
I mean, you've done that for a lot of people. We were even talking about it on the phone prior to you doing it for me. I was actually saying to you, what does that feel like? How does that feel when you see that reaction like you got from me? Do you get anything from that even after all these years? How does that affect you?
Well, it's one of those things that I've been known to laugh with my clients. I've been known to cry with my clients. it's a very, some people have a very emotional experience when they reconnect with their deceased loved ones. So I'm certainly very empathetic to that. I want them to come away feeling good about what we've done and feeling, I want to bring comfort and healing and clarity to all of my clients. And if I can come away feeling good about that, and they can come away from a reading with me feeling those things, then we've had a successful time together.
I just wonder again, because it is more like therapy as well, what you do. We talked about this before.
Sure.
What about the other side of that, where people don't get the message that they hope for or can't reach? I'm sure that happens, right?
On occasion it does, not as common as
Oh, really?
yeah. I mean, very seldom do I come up dry.
Wow.
I mean, there are instances, I would say I've been doing this type of work for 22 and a half years now,
Right.
close to that figure. And I would say there was probably only 2% or less of the readings that I've ever done that I've come up completely with nothing. I mean, there have been those instances when spirit just didn't want to talk to that person.
Wow.
And I had a lady on a group session that I did over Zoom recently. And she, unbeknownst to me, I asked the same 3 questions I ask of all my clients. Tell me the name of who you want to talk to, how long it's been since they passed, and what was your relationship with them. And it was her mother. And that's all she gave me. And her mom came through and said, basically right in the beginning, okay, I'm here. And then it was very obvious that she and her mom had not a healthy relationship.
Mm.
And her mom basically came through and said, I'm sorry for the things that we said and did to each other, for my part in that. And her daughter said, I don't believe you for a second. And the mom basically said, then I guess we're done here.
Wow.
What can we do? I mean, if you've come here to fight, I don't want to fight with you. If you've come here to scream and yell and shout at me and spew your anger at me, then I don't want to be here. So if we're not going to do anything other than that, I'm leaving. I'm just laid it on the line. And just
that's horrible to think that those things can continue beyond life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they do a lot of times. If people don't get the opportunity to express their feelings to someone while they're alive, I mean, those feelings can be very real when their loved one passes. I mean, it's unresolved. It's those unresolved feelings.
Yeah.
I know my dad, I've said this a number of times. My dad was an alcoholic. And, he stopped drinking cold turkey when I was 14, but by then the damage was done. And I loved my dad. I didn't always like my dad because he inflicted a lot of emotional damage to me and my mother. And we never had that conversation, and I never told him how I felt about those things. I was raised in the South. You respect your parents. You respect your elders.
Even after he stopped drinking, you've never in your adult life?
We never had that conversation.
Now, why do you think that is? You never.
Again, it was a respect factor. You just don't. I don't know why we never had it. I guess maybe I didn't know how to approach that conversation.
Right.
Or whatever. For whatever reason, we just never had that conversation. And then he died.
Yeah.
And I'm left with that anger. And what do I do with that anger? And luckily, I had friends who sort of heard that story. And one particular friend, her name is Charlotte. She is one of the most incredible energy workers that I know on the planet. And she had a cancellation of one of her appointments for an energy session. And she said, you want to get on my table for 45 minutes? And I said, sure. Why not? She said, what do you want to talk about? I said, my dad issues. And she did a combination. She had her own little method that she used, which was a combination of EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, and her own sort of ways that she did things. So she did some EFT. We did some tapping. We did some affirmations. And during that 45 minutes, I laughed, I cried, I screamed.
Oh my
I
God.
went through this whole range of emotions. And honestly, about 40 minutes into that session, I felt something dislodge out of me like that. It just sort of left. It left. Whatever that was left out of me. It almost felt like I was exorcised.
Wow.
And it was incredible. And I sat up afterwards and I thought, I feel different. I feel different.
But isn't it crazy that and you're talking about this, and it just reminded me of a conversation I had with my daughter a couple days ago. And the date of my daughter's birthday's coming up, the one that passed, and we're kind of having a little bit of a hard time, but it's typical. And she was just like, Mom, there was something that because my mother visited her for the first time ever. She's never had a visitation from my mother, and she visited her and she made her hug her because my daughter's not a hugger. And she told her, you have to hug me and you better hold me tight because I probably won't be able to come back and see you. But I just want to see you and connect to you. And then she said, and something popped in my head that I feel I have to tell you. And I said, what? She goes, do you remember when you went for your neck surgery and nobody would come and help you with us girls? Like I had 2 teenage girls that were alone. I was alone. I went into surgery alone with my 2 teens in the hospital waiting room by themselves. No support. And that stressed me as a mother. And I asked everybody and nobody could do it. And my mother said to my daughter, and I didn't know this in the hospital, she held her hand and she said, I let your mom down and I let you girls go. And I will regret that forever. But I need to tell you, that's all I need to do is we don't have to discuss it. But I need to tell you, I feel like I know I let your mother down. I let you girls down. It's something I will regret forever. But I just had to let you know. Wow. I regret that decision. And that was such a healing thing for me. I didn't realize that I was holding that.
And we do hold on to this stuff. And even if it happens after, like with my dad, if you're holding on to this stuff, this crap, after someone dies, what do you do with it? You can't, you feel like you can't have a conversation with them because they're gone.
Yeah.
One of the things that I did was I basically just had to come to Jesus, cuss you out, tell you what I feel, conversation with my dad post-mortem. But after I had that energy session, what I was going to add at the end of that story is the fact that for days after that and months and weeks and years now, and this has probably been 12 or more years ago that this happened, maybe even close to 15 years ago that this occurred. I remember many times having looked for those emotions, those raw emotions of anger, and even sometimes bordering on rage that I felt toward my dad, that I couldn't find anymore. After the energy session, I just couldn't find it. It was so, like I said, it was like it was exorcised out of me. And, I had that conversation with my dad one day where I just out loud told him what I thought. And honestly, in some ways, I feel like I have a better relationship with my dad since he's dead. I mean, I love my dad and I always did. Didn't always like him. I believe in unconditional love, but I don't believe in unconditional like.
Right. Right.
You can love the heck out of somebody.
Yep.
But not like some of the things they do.
Yeah.
So, and it's awfully hard for me to move beyond some of those things. I think it is for all of us.
Right.
And, you hear about, forgive that person, forgive that person. I've got to tell you this, and this is kind of a revelation. I find it hard to forgive sometimes because to me, forgiveness almost feels like you're saying, oh, it's okay. What happened is okay. It's fine. And, we had a conversation recently about someone that did me wrong a couple of times, did me very wrong a couple of times. And do I forgive them? No, I don't. But what I've done is I don't let those negative emotions I feel regarding that situation impact me the way that they did right after they happened. I've learned to say, you're not gonna affect me. I'm not gonna remain a victim to this person or this set of events. I'm just not going to let it have that cancerous impact and continue to erode away at me. I'm just not going to do it. So if that's part of forgiveness, maybe I don't know, but to say, oh, I forgive you, that's hard for me to do. And that's just me personally. Do whatever you want to do out there. I
Right.
don't care what
Right.
you do. For me, being able to say, oh yeah, I forgive you, almost excuses the fact that it happened. And
Yeah, but
even if you do say, all right, if someone apologizes to you and you do accept that apology, that doesn't necessarily mean at all that you've got to throw open the door and throw out the welcome mat to that person ever again. Because if someone does you wrong, you know, there's a likelihood or the possibility at least that they're going to do it again.
oh, I agree. Well, you brought up you mentioned your father. Now, my mom was one who always said to my mom when she would drink, you know, holidays, whatever, birthday.
Right.
My mother would it was like truth serum, you know, for my mom. So
Mhm.
she would always grab me and give me a hug, and she'd say, you know, John, I love you and I like you. And I go, well, that's great, Ma. She goes, no. Lots of parents love their kids, but they don't like them. She said,
That's
so I love
true.
you and I like you. But that brings me back to your father. Now, you said your father was an alcoholic till you were 14.
My dad was always an alcoholic. He just stopped drinking when I was 14.
So you said there was a lot of trauma there.
Prior to 14 years old, yes.
Yeah, so that's you and I had this discussion before. A lot of the mediums that I know, the good ones, have suffered like severe trauma in their life, mostly when they were younger. Now,
Okay.
how old were you when your father passed?
I was 31, 32 years old.
And never thought to have that conversation with the see, because I had a similar thing with my father. My father left when I was 2. My mom was deaf, 4 kids, welfare. I met him when I was 24. We found him. I went out there and just similar, but not similar to you. I wanted to have the conversation I was holding in my whole entire life. Why did you leave? Why did you never try to find us? Why didn't you ever contact? Even if you had an issue with my mom, why the 4 of us were, you know, and he got married and had, you know, another family or whatever. But I didn't. I was just, again, wondering, like, for you were with your father all those years and you had a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Never once when you were together did you think we're going to have this clearing it out moment that you had later on when he passed.
I'm sure I thought about it. I mean, this has been a long time ago. My dad passed in 1986.
Okay.
So this has been a lot of years ago. We're going on what, 40 years since he died?
Right.
It was 37 years this year, 38 coming up. I'm sure I must have thought about it at some point in time. But again, you've got to take into consideration, I was raised a good, dutiful son in the South. Yeah. And you just don't get into that stuff.
But isn't there also the other thing that there would be no good answer to that?
Yeah, but there would be as an adult.
Well, for me, it would have made me feel good that I'd unloaded on him. That's
what I'm saying.
That part I understand.
You know, there's that factor that's involved in it.
But do you think you would ever gotten an answer from him that would have been good enough to excuse any of it?
You know, what is he going to say except I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Or say, you know, you run the possibility. Some parents might say it wasn't that bad, or you didn't have it that bad, or you know, yeah, I really don't give a damn how you felt about that, or whatever. I mean, there could have been any results. I'm sure my dad would have said to me, "I'm sorry I made you feel that way."
Right.
But he might not have said, "I'm sorry." But if you say, "I'm sorry I made you feel that way," that's really not a full "I'm sorry." I don't think.
No, that's a gut wrencher.
Yeah,
it's your problem, not mine.
If you say, "I'm sorry," I apologize.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, but people are flawed, Chip. We talked about this on the phone a little earlier. Yeah. You're not the same guy you were at the age of 30 or the age of 20. So if someone had an issue with you at that age and they met you now and they held those same feelings of you as the 30-year-old Chip, wouldn't you at least like the opportunity to say, hey, this isn't 30-year-old Chip. I'm I'm a different guy than that guy. I don't feel like I'm.
It depends on the circumstance.
Okay.
You know, if I had an individual when I was 30 years old and we had a falling out, and it feels to me now after all these years that there was a reason why that happened or whatever, I may just go, with me, if I'm done with something or someone, I'm generally, depending on how close they are to me, if the relationship really, I want to try to hold on to it, I'll try to salvage it. But you know, I'm not going to bend over backwards and be the whipping boy or the doormat in any relationship.
I get it.
And there are some relationships where I've said that bridge is burned and I've scattered the ashes. And that's the truth. I had a really close friendship years ago with a female, and she and I were as close as two people could be. We hung out all the time. We did theater together. We had a lovely, lovely relationship. And then she crossed the line with me. She did something that was really inexcusable. And even then, I tried twice to see, are you interested in seeing if we can talk through this and salvage this friendship? And then I sent a message to her through a mutual friend. And that mutual friend came back to me and said, ask Beth if she wants to try to do this. Her name was Beth. And the response was, I think it's best to leave the past in the past.
Right. For some it is. You're right. No, there are some things that are.
And here's the story. You're talking, this happened in the year 2000. So right. You do the math, 23 right. years. Well, about a year and a half ago or so, I saw another mutual friend who came to me and had talked to Beth and mentioned to Beth that she and I, that the friend and I had seen each other and we'd gone to lunch together. And Beth had said, well, you know, I'd be interested in talking to Chip and just seeing how he's doing and whatever, just for a whatever conversation. So tell him to give me a call. And my response was, well, you can take this message back to her the way she sent the message back to me. I think it's best to leave the past in the past.
Oofa.
Karma.
No, I get it.
But that's just it. It's all circumstantial. You know, if someone means a lot to me, then I will try to salvage a relationship with them if I can. But if they're not going to at least meet me halfway, then F them. I don't care.
No, I get it.
It all depends. And if someone has, they've got to mean quite a bit for me to actually try to get back on even ground with that person.
Okay.
But if you're just somebody I just happen to know in passing, or just not somebody I consider a close person in my life, if you disappear out of my life, what's really gone? And I've gotten to the point, so I don't see you. So
you're being honest.
I'm being 100%.
And let's be honest, you're saying exactly what all of us do in real life.
Well, and here's the truth of the matter. I'm going to be 70 years old on my next birthday. And in reality, I learned not long ago, not in comparison to 70 years, but I learned that if someone or something is not bringing something positive, however I define positive, into my life, then does that person or that thing deserve a place in my life?
100% right.
And I will tell you this: there's been some weeding of the garden.
Yeah.
And
100% right.
Far distant past. You know, I will typically, I can think of just a few people that I wouldn't even be cordial with. But for the vast majority of people, even if they're not, I would always be cordial to her. You not so much, but it depends on the person,
right?
And there are those people that I will always try to be civil and at least decent,
right,
to someone, but that doesn't mean we're going to be friends,
right?
It doesn't mean that at all. Just because you are friendly with someone,
yep,
doesn't mean you are friends with
No,
them.
you were right. You and I talked about this. When someone shows you a glimpse of their true colors and they're not the person you thought they were. In fact, it's kind of way off what you thought they were. It's hard to unsee that and readjust your friend meter to say, they're still my friend, but they're capable of that.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
watch me dive into the deep end of the pool here. When Chris and John are very kind and polite to some people and treat them with a lot of kindness and respect, and then they don't get that return to them. As a matter of fact, they're shown a lot of disrespect and discourtesy. There's one thing I would say to those people.
Oh, jeez. It's Christmas show. What are we doing here?
No, I'm with you, Chip.
I didn't say a bad word. There you
No,
go.
you
But that's the
didn't.
truth. That's the truth. If someone is not treating you well, why should they remain in your life?
Yeah, you're right.
100%. And he already
Personally,
knows.
professionally, whatever.
I give you 100 chances. I will do all of the work to try to make something cordial and give you the benefit of the doubt and bend over backwards to make it work. But once that metal door slams down, there's no coming back through. And I just did that.
People are saying that's the Jersey State bird. That's not true. Not true.
Well, it is. I have a t-shirt that says FAFO on it, thanks to Roger. And if you know what FAFO stands for, it stands for around and find out. And the deal is that's kind of the way it's become with me. I don't.
Oh, yeah.
My well of F's is run dry. I don't have any to give anymore.
No, but here's the thing too. Like you said, relationships that are worth salvaging, you try because you and I had a little here and there, but it always never got beyond another text and a phone call. But no, I do really care about
There's connection.
And his relationship to me and us matters to me a lot. And I wouldn't want to do anything to jeopardize
my relationship with Chris matters to me an awful lot.
Now you've asked for it. Now you've asked for it. There he is.
Oh my God! You ought to have those made into holy water bottles.
But Chip got to see firsthand because I did talk to Chip. Chip saw me for the first time fall apart over the way I got treated by somebody and what it did to me. I can usually suck it up and not react to that, but it hit me on a raw at a really bad time. And you did. You gave me great, perfect advice.
People will treat you the way you allow them to treat you.
It's the truth. 100%.
If you continue to allow them to treat you in that fashion, and
then you deserve it.
Don't let them know that they have done something that is just unacceptable to you, then the fact of the matter is you are shooting yourself in the foot.
That's right. I
you're
agree.
blamed for allowing that to continue to go on.
Well, it's almost like you're wearing a kick me sign and you put it back on your back again, after you knew it was there.
I didn't have it on the back, I had it on the front.
Know what I mean. Anyway, let's switch gears a little bit here. I have a question for you, Chip, that came up in one of our live streams that we were doing, and maybe you have some insight to this. We were talking about two different things about kind of the afterlife, and in your experience, do you think like a person who has in life had a disability, did they carry that over with them? Mm-hmm. See, we were talking about that because we were talking about someone like my mom or somebody who was deaf in the physical and the life, and yet in the afterlife they seem to be able to understand.
And they talk about the fact that they suffered from something when they were alive, but that's just as it says in some holy books like the Bible. You don't have a body, and so your soul was not infirmed.
Right. See, that makes a lot of sense to me. And we did talk about that. Where if you're transitioning to another, like you said, form, energy, let's say, why would you carry the same physical ailments?
No, because that was an affliction typically of your body. And things like some people ask me about dementia and Alzheimer's and those sort of things and mental health problems. No, those don't get carried across.
Wow.
Because a lot of people we've talked to people that are in the field, that will say, oh, they have that affliction on the other side. And like, no. They can make you understand that they had it, I believe, but I cannot accept and will not accept on any level that my daughter who had a mental illness carried that mental illness with her in death. I absolutely refuse to accept that.
In 22 years of talking to countless thousands of dead people and some people who had some severe maladies going on with them, both physical or mental in this lifetime, I've never heard of anyone who said that was carried across when they crossed over. Nor have I ever heard of anyone going to any place that is akin to hell. You can get your butt kicked and have to do a life review and take accountability and responsibility for the errors of your ways. But I've never encountered anybody that says I'm shoveling coal for Satan in hell.
Well,
never had that.
What about aging? I mean, is that relative in the afterlife? Like if I die as a child?
I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
I don't. I really don't. Because think about this. Does the soul really have an age?
No.
So why do we worry about what the age is? Here's an example. My goddaughter has a little ghost friend that lives in her house in the Hudson Valley, and his name is Billy. And Billy died when he was between 7 and 9 years old. He was like 6.
Right.
So Billy first came to her as a little boy because she was a little girl.
Right.
But now, since Billy's soul is ageless, maybe what it is as she gets older, she is relating to Billy on an older level.
That makes sense.
And maybe that's the whole thing. Maybe, because Billy told her, which I think, don't get me emotional on this, but Billy actually told Ella not long ago, I'll always be with you.
Oh, geez.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
And Billy never lived in the house that they lived in. Billy came to me first. Talked to me when I was in the shower before Ella was adopted and said, when's the baby coming?
What?
And in a few weeks after that, Ella was in the house with her parents.
Oh my God.
And Billy never lived in the house, but we found out who Billy really was. Billy's family was a very prominent family in that area. And I knew Billy's family had something to do with the house or the property or something where the family, where my goddaughter's family lives. And it turns out that Billy's family once owned the land where their house is. They've lived there 11 years. Ella's now going on 10 years old. She's 9.5. And they have a 3rd floor on their house, guys. A 3rd floor. And it's the living room, dining room, kitchen, entranceway area downstairs, and then 3 bedrooms and a bathroom on the 2nd level. And then the 3rd level is like an enclosed widow's walk, like a cupola on top of their house where they have an office and a couch and they hang out up there. Well, when you come down the steps are kind of steep. And you know how there can be an overhang over your head. Typically, when you come down, you're going to put your hand up to balance yourself as you're coming down those last steps. Well, Ella, my goddaughter, was coming down the steps the other day, and she felt something. And she looked up there. Now, they've lived here 11 years.
Right.
And she looks up, and she yells. She's got 2 dads. She yells for one of her dads. Etched in that wood is Billy. Explain that to me. Billy never lived in the house, and it's not new. Ella didn't scratch that herself because they haven't painted that wood on the overhang since they moved in.
What?
Billy is painted over. So Billy is etched in the wood. Billy.
That's nuts.
It's crazy. We've been to Billy's grave.
Wow.
And Billy turned on Ella's toys when she was a child, her electronic toys. When she was 2 years old, nobody had ever mentioned Billy to her. When she was 1.5 years, 2 years old, she was in her nursery talking up a storm to somebody, having a little tea party with somebody. And her dad came walking down the hallway and said, who are you talking to, baby girl? And she said, Billy. Never heard of Billy. We finally found where Billy's buried in the cemetery, in the churchyard, cemetery graveyard near their house. And before that, they're passing by this cemetery before he even knew, I think, that well, we might have known that Billy was there in the cemetery, the graveyard. But she's in her car seat behind the passenger seat, and her dad's driving, her papa's driving. She points out to the cemetery. She doesn't know what a dead person is or a cemetery. She points out to there and she goes, Papa, that's where Billy lives.
Oh my God.
And we go find Billy's grave, and I walk hand in hand up to where he's buried with my goddaughter. And she doesn't know where we're at. She just knows we're walking around in the outdoors. Walk up with her, and I said, Ella, do you know what this is? She went, it's Billy. It's like, dummy, it's Billy.
Like, duh.
Yeah, but how do you explain something like that? Why?
How do you?
Yeah.
How do I explain that two children, my godchildren, Jack and Ella, are both having weird... Jack told me the other day, Jack is going on 10. I have no DNA connection to either of these kids, but they got beautifully dropped into my life.
Right.
Jack calls me on the phone the other day. He goes, so I got something to tell you. And I'm like, okay. And he says, I was driving by this old hospital yesterday or the day before, whenever it happened to be. And he goes, and I saw two teenage girls walking toward the hospital, and they just walked right through a wall. And I'm like, what? And he's so interested in things like ghosts and talking to the afterlife, and loves spooky movies and loves spooky TV shows and loves Bigfoot and Sasquatch and Yetis. And this is a child that has no connection to me, but both of these children are having these weird paranormal sort of
That's bizarre
things in their lives. And they got deposited in my world.
Do you think, we were talking about this before too, do you think that's fate in some way or destiny?
I wish I knew how some of this stuff works. I don't, but I look at it and I go, what are the odds that I'm going to have two godchildren and both of them have something going on like this? I mean, and there's no DNA connection. I have no DNA connection to their parents. I have no DNA connection to them. So, I mean, what do you think are the odds that one's having weird stuff happen, but both of them living in two separate parts of the country? Really? No.
See, that's where, again, like you said, the universe, whatever you want to call it, works in such a strange way that was it part of the plan all along? Is there
probably?
You know what I mean? It's bizarre to even ask that question. It leads to a million other questions.
See, I do believe in like that something puts things in our lives for a reason, or there's a guidance to it. I do.
There's got to be some highest power, whatever you want to say, that sees things from a much more objective way than we do, because we're looking at things subjectively, and sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees, or our vision of things is myopic. That highest power's vision is not myopic. So I don't know why this happened or how this happened. I can just look at it and it happened and go,
wow,
that's kind of wow, but cool. And my godson is very into things. He asked me the other day about the Jersey Devil.
Oh, God.
And I'm like, I don't know a lot about that, but I'm sure I can find you somebody who does.
It's folklore. It's horseshit.
He's very interested in the whole Jersey.
But he couldn't do the New
I
Jersey bird, and you could do the horse.
Here's another thing, too, Chip, that we were talking to somebody about. And again, really interesting. Actually, Grant Wilson was the one who I talked to this a little bit about, and it's kind of along the lines of what you said about the life review. I've talked to a lot of people, not a lot, but at least 10 that have died and come back. And they all have said there is some kind of life review thing that they felt like they were going through.
Sure.
And Grant kind of believes that life review process, it's not something you have to do. It's a choice. You have to do it if you want to move on to wherever we go beyond that point. But you really, if you don't accept it and you don't want to deal with it, you're kind of stuck in the in-between.
Well, consider this.
Right.
Consider you are Adolf Hitler or
Right.
Charlie Manson, and you get there, and I don't believe when they were born into that lifetime that their souls came into that lifetime to say, I'm going to kill millions of people, or I'm going to be I'm going to support the efforts of serial killers. I don't believe that was the case, but I believe that free will and ego took over their soul's pure intent for that lifetime, and it corrupted them. And so when they go back to spirit, they've got those deeds and those actions and words on their karma and on their soul. Their soul participated in this somehow.
Yeah.
So if they go over there and they go, I'm not sorry for this. I've been told that there are souls that are irredeemable. Some souls, if you try to redeem them and they just flatly, for whatever reason, are saying, no, I'm not sorry I did this, whatever, that they basically go to what's been called the dark place. Basically, that's kind of like the garbage heap of souls.
Well, see, that's interesting. I never heard of that one. I was thinking more along the lines of, for lack of a better example, someone like you said, your father, or someone who's an alcoholic and felt like they wronged people their whole entire lives. It's just not a good person, didn't take care of their family, whatever, treated people like crap. You know, maybe that they're also afraid to look in that mirror at that point and go, you know what? I don't want to rehash all that. I don't want to relive my wrongdoings. And again, Grant kind of thinks that they get stuck, not just the bad ones, but just the ones that just don't want to.
Maybe that's what the purgatory is. Maybe until you finish your life review, maybe you don't get to complete that transition 100%. Maybe that's what it's, and maybe that takes more time for some people. That's the reason I like to try to give any soul if someone calls me to do a reading, the person they want to communicate with has to be passed away longer ago than 6 months.
Okay.
That's the lesser limit for someone to be dead. So, you know, and maybe that's what purgatory is to the Catholics. Maybe purgatory is the place where you go to where you have to show some sense of remorse or regret or learning or accountability or something before you're gonna finish that next step into the afterlife. I don't know. I don't know fully about that.
Well, let's be honest. In life, we make excuses for our behavior. We don't face we literally make excuses, blow it off. We don't look ourselves in the mirror and accept what we're doing in responsibility.
But I'm talking more along the lines of, like, people think that some spirits are stuck. You know, like this is the general opinion in the paranormal. They're stuck because they don't want to move. They don't want to cross over. They don't know they're dead. You know, things like that. Do you think there's any truth to anything like that? Like,
I think that there are a small number of souls that, for whatever reason, not knowing they're dead, feeling angry because their life was cut short. They don't understand the whole process. They can't stand seeing their families grieve and hurt. Whatever reason that they've decided they're not going to complete that transition into spirit with a capital S. I think that there's a small number, but in the 22 plus years that I've done this, I can say there is an incredibly small number. Everyone has the mistaken, some people, I should say, have the mistaken assumption that if you're communicating with someone at a haunted location, that they're just an earthbound, nomadic, haven't crossed over spirit.
Right.
That's not necessarily the truth. Now, I'll give you one example of something that happened to me once. I am not the ghost whisperer. I'm not having to help, you know, I don't have the tatas that Jennifer Love Hewitt had, you know, and if you really remember Ghost Whisperer, if you notice Jennifer Love Hewitt was stacked, no doubt about it. She had tatas. And if you notice that she always was wearing this low cut little thing, and they always shot her from this angle, from up.
So just tell it like it was.
I'm trying to keep this a family.
You were looking down into a part of her personality. Now, and she was always helping those spirits cross over. And every time I watched it, I would go, oh shit, you know, and that's the way I would, you know, sorry, excuse me. the way that I would react to that show. I was at an event once, and there were some people there that they were the crossing over people. They were going to cross somebody over, and they were communicating with what they said was a child in this one room. And I was there with another psychic and medium, and I won't mention any names, but his initials are Chris Fleming. And, yeah, no names, just initials.
Appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. And they were in there and they were like, we need to cross him over. We need to help him cross over. You need to go to the light. We're going to cross you over. I turned around and got ready to leave. I'm like, I can't even do this. How are you going to cross somebody over if they're dead and they don't know how to do it themselves?
Bingo.
Please.
Bingo.
This is hysteria.
Bingo.
And then they played back. They were doing an EVP session, and they played back the EVP. You've got to cross over. We command you to cross over. And the EVP came back and said, fuck you.
Oh.
Fuck you.
See, but I love that because I'm of the same mindset of as we as the living, how do we as the living have the ability to cross the spirit over?
How do you do that?
It makes no sense to me whatsoever.
I've helped thousands of spirits cross over.
I mean, if you want to, in theory, say that you could, if let's say they're listening, if there's the ability for spirit to listen through someone like you or someone like us, can you counsel them and let them know that, hey, this is somebody else's home.
I think
you shouldn't be here. You're scaring this family. You should move on. That's not crossing them over.
No, that is not. That is encouraging them to do it on their own. You're not crossing them over. You are encouraging them to finish the process.
Right.
And there are not that many of them. Trust me, there are.
So you don't believe that holy water and sage and all that other stuff get spirit gone?
They can finish the transition period and come back to the third dimension. They don't have to be still stuck here. Do you think that every ghost you've encountered on your ghost hunting in your ghost hunting years has not finished that transition? Do you really think that they're uncrossed over spirits?
Everyone, no. No, I wouldn't say everyone. No.
The vast majority of them aren't. They come back.
I mean, I would like to believe that, again, that in most cases, it almost is like a channeling thing where you occupy a space that they did at one time, and maybe trying to openly communicate draws them in, perhaps.
You think?
Well,
you think that those ghosts probably hang out at Liberty Hall all the time? They're probably out in Tahiti.
Why do you got to mention Liberty Hall? That's one of our big places.
And that's why I said that. You go there. No, they're not always there. You go there looking for them and you call them in.
Yes, I believe that. He believes that too.
Yeah, I do.
You get there. That. You know, that place may not always be haunted. Because you anticipate that they're going to be there, and you go there and you're going, any spirits here that want to talk to me? Come here, you knock. You know, that's the reason.
No,
because is he imitating me?
No, he's not.
Oh.
Listen.
Because that's you're there looking for them. And Mark Macy said it. He's into interdimensional transcommunication.
Yep.
Mark Macy's famous quote that I quote all the time is, the intent of the seeker affects the results. Your intent is to go in there and communicate with those beings, and maybe not, they will come and play with you.
Right.
It is my belief that it is the combined energies of the living and the dead that creates whether or not you're going to get good results. Why is it this? Your group can go in and get fabulous results at a location. The next group can come in and they get nothing. So their energy is not the same conducive energy as your energy is, and combining with the spirit energy.
I agree.
I preach that all the time.
Why is it? I've gone to events where you're trading out locations of where you're going to investigate. One group will go in and it'll be off the charts with their getting results. Then the next group will go in and it's dead as a doornail. So I believe it's the combined energies of the living and the dead that create the results in a paranormal investigation.
So Chip, all the years of doing the shows that you've done, Paranormal State, Psychic Kids, Kindred Spirits, Lockdown, has anybody, I'm sure they have Has anybody reached out to you? Because they've reached out to us, so they've got to reach out to you. Do you ever get the my house is haunted with demons and all that? Can you please come help me? I'll offer you whatever money and travel. You have to get that, right?
I do.
And what is your response to that? You don't work on those type of cases, right? Or
I don't do that.
right.
I had a lady call me today and said, I'm being watched by everybody. They're watching me constantly. They're following me through the grocery store. And I said, I'm an honest SOB. I said, that sounds like paranoia to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, I don't really think you need to be talking to a psychic about this stuff.
Yeah.
I thought maybe you could tell me who it is. She says, I really think it's because there's this huge conglomerate, maybe even the government, trying to buy up all the houses in our neighborhood. And we told somebody once that we weren't interested in selling our house. So I think,
oh my God.
and we see them all the time, and it's different people, but it could be the wives of the men that are trying to buy our house, or they're sending their relatives or something to keep an eye on us. We see them at the grocery store, and I'm thinking, this lady is as crazy as a house rat. I said, you need to call the authorities. I think they're in on it too.
Yeah.
And by then I'm like, I've just said, that's out of my wheelhouse. Or if they call me and ask me, my house, I think there's a demon in my house. That's out of my wheelhouse. I don't go looking for that stuff. And I'm not an exorcist. I'm not a demonologist.
Right.
So if you're watching this and thinking about calling me for the demon in your life or in your house or in your business or anything like that, don't ring me up, because that's what I do.
It's not going to happen. Chip,
I do psychic readings and I talk to dead people. You want anything else done?
Do you ever read anybody famous, any celebrities?
Yeah.
Anybody you don't have to talk about the reading, but could you name names as far as?
No, my client list is private.
Not even. Come on, not a good one.
No.
You can't.
Did anybody ever ask you to get in touch with a celebrity? Like, did anybody ever want to talk to Elvis or someone like that, John Lennon, or people like that?
I've talked to John Lennon a number of times.
A number of times.
Marilyn Monroe, John F. Kennedy Jr. Who else? John Wilkes Booth.
What?
Yeah.
Now, how did they come through to you? How does that happen? They just come through at a random time?
At locations that they had some history in, and we had been talking about them, and they were kind of like, what's going on over here? And
that's pretty cool.
Asked me once to what's his name? One girl who had known Jim Morrison in life asked me to communicate with Jim Morrison once.
Wow.
Come on, baby, light my fire.
Now, you were saying about 6 months before you would even try. Have you ever gotten anybody? Now, I'm sure this is just, again, human nature. If it was me and I had the means to do it, and, there are people that lose people in different ways, horrible ways, natural ways, whatever. Have you ever gotten people who was literally, a day or two after, kind of desperate car wreck or anything like that says, any messages or anything? Could you tell us what happened during that accident? No.
And I think that there's one person who's phenomenally known that as soon as somebody dies, they're trying to do evil.
Yeah.
We don't mention any name, but look on YouTube.
Yeah, but what about like suspicious circumstances?
That is reprehensible.
Yeah, but what about suspicious circumstances? Let's say it's 3 years later, and mom or dad died under not.
And sometimes they'll come through and talk about it, and sometimes they won't.
Okay. Have you ever gotten something like that where it was like, no, I didn't pass away from this. I passed away from that.
A lot of times, people who don't know if someone who had taken their own life, if it was intentional or purposeful and
right.
Sometimes I'll get the answer to that.
See, that's what I'm asking. I'm curious if that ever gives people kind of the answer that they want when it comes to something where it's not.
And lots of times when people die and the family wasn't aware of how sick they were, lots of times the person who's died will come through and say, I knew I was sicker than I let you know.
Yeah.
I just kept it from you because I didn't want you to worry about it. I had a cousin, her liver was shot. I mean, it was just shot, and she never told her family until she was found unresponsive and dead. And they took her to the hospital and put her in ICU on a ventilator, and were keeping her alive. And they said, we just need to let her go.
Yeah.
organs are shutting down, and you know that and now her kidneys are shutting down, and her liver's already shot anyway. And they're like, what? Her liver has been shot for a while, and they're like, what? She had not told them that her liver was basically not functioning
Oh,
well,
Jesus.
and they found it out while she's laying in a coma hours before death, that she kept that from her family.
Wow. Well, here's another story that I remember. It was at one of the expos, actually. It might have been the first one that you attended. Somebody contacted me and they said you were having dinner or something after or before, and you were at a restaurant with Greta, of course, and you're sitting there eating a meal, and this gentleman and his daughter were at the table across from you or a couple of tables away, and she was looking at you and you were kind of looking over at the daughter, and you went over to him.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Let me stop.
That's not how it happened, or he came over to you?
I don't do that.
Oh, he came over to you then.
I don't know the answer to that. What's
It
the
was
rest?
something like that.
I'm telling you, I don't approach people like that.
No, he said he came over to you or something like that. And he said that he thinks his daughter had abilities because she was talking about things that she was seeing and stuff like that. And he asked you your opinion on, like, what do I do? What do I, and you said you did pick up on something and advised him to kind of go speak to someone who he trusted, like someone who was a medium or something like that, just to, kind of explore that or something like that. I can't remember the guy's name. This was many, many years ago, but
okay. I might have said, yeah, first and foremost, everybody has some level of psychic abilities.
Right.
Scale. So your abilities, if you've got abilities, or Chris has abilities, or Joe Schmo down the street, or, Jane Doe, whoever, none of my business. That's between you and your spirit partners.
Okay.
None of my business. I may be able to sometimes sense if I feel you have abilities, but if what you are getting is coming from a source of information that you have not got using your 5 human senses, and it turns out to be valid and accurate, then you're getting things from the spirit realm.
Okay.
And everybody's got that ability. So don't think that you're so special if you get something every now and then.
Right.
Everybody does. That's the reason I don't think that there's not a part of me that thinks my poop don't stink.
Well,
it does. I'm there. Never mind. And I will tell you that it's if you make it a big deal, it's going to be a big deal. But as far as doing ambush readings, walking up to somebody in the mall or in an airport or the grocery store in a restaurant or something like that, that's trespassing. Yeah. That's ambushing somebody, and I wouldn't want anybody to do that to me. If they did, I'd say get them.
I personally don't like that myself.
Yeah,
I didn't invite you into my business.
No, I didn't ask you to come into my psychic space.
Yeah.
Back way off.
So you think the shows where they do that, do you think it's prearranged, or do you think it's really
I think it's again, I'll use the word reprehensible. Because if you walk up to somebody like that, it's an ambush.
Yeah.
And they may respond well to it, but what if they don't? If they walk to me, I'd go, you need to get them away from me.
Yeah, I didn't. Somebody did that to me a while ago. Before my mom passed, she got real sick, and they basically told me she's going to pass. And my mother lived another 3 years after that, but it really upset me because I didn't ask this particular medium, and they just came over and told me that.
No, you need to tell people, get away from me.
Yeah, that really bothered me, but that person did that to me.
I would probably punch somebody in the throat.
Yeah.
There's somebody on here that asked a really good question, and we have this discussion all the time, so they want to know your opinion on it. When they do investigations, do you think that a person going in to investigate somewhere needs to bring some kind of protection, and if so, what?
Why are you shaking your head?
Because you don't. Again, if you're basically...
Wait, I asked Chip.
Okay,
they want to know
I'll let Chip answer. Go ahead, Chip.
And there's the answer. I always do. John doesn't. It's all according to what your belief system is. My belief system is I have a fairly Catholic belief system when it comes to that. I have a St. Michael and a St. Benedict Jubilee medal, a cross, my mother's St. Jude medal, several things. I call it my Catholic bling around my neck, as well as my, medical alert bracelet, necklace around my neck. I travel with holy water. So that's my belief. There are those people that don't do anything.
Mhm.
And there are people that whatever you feel like is going to place you in a protected space. That's what it, and it really does become a belief system.
Well, yeah,
So
I
do you
agree.
believe that you give all of those things the power? That it comes from you, or it comes from a higher being?
I don't know the answer to that, but I feel better
Okay.
Right.
for having those things with me.
Well, I agree with that, but I also, along the same terms of a human can't cross the spirit over, then how could we as a living kind of protect ourselves
It's
from
not a matter of that we're
that
protecting.
kind of energy?
It's not a matter of that we're protecting ourselves. We call upon those energies that are protective energies to be with us.
All right, that makes sense to me, but I don't have
I
faith
call
in
upon
those
my spirit guides
energies.
and my guardian angels to be there with me and to layer protection on me.
So you do believe in spirit guides? You think you have them? Do you,
Yeah.
do you know who they are? Do they have names?
I happen to know all 7 of mine.
7.
Yeah. Well, six spirit guides and 2 that may have come on board recently, but I've known my spirit partner's name since 1984.
So how? Where do they come from? How do you know you have them?
Well,
Is-
it's a belief system.
Yeah.
I believe everybody has them.
Right.
There's a difference between angels and spirit guides. Angels
Okay.
are God's beings that He created. Never been a human being. They're God's worker bees. His what word am I trying to use? They work for God, and they're a totally separate being from a human being. Emissaries. That's the word I was trying to think of. Spirit guides are formerly living human beings who've gone through many lifetimes and have gained a lot of soul knowledge. They've gotten a lot of merit badges, if you will, added a lot of colors to their souls, and they're entrusted by the highest of high beings in spirit to help those who are here on the planet in whatever ways they're capable of doing.
Okay.
So spirit partners, spirit guides, spirit family, they're formerly living human beings. Typically not anybody you've known in your current lifetime.
Huh.
Typically not.
Okay.
Grandma's not going to die and become an angel. Clarence and It's a Wonderful Life didn't get his wings when the bell rang. That's bullshit. That didn't happen.
But are they spirit guides?
Say that again. They can be your spirit guides.
Okay, that's okay.
They can be. They can be. So I've known my spirit guides since 84. So what's going on 40 years.
Oh.
But again, how do you know?
I was led through a guided meditation in a park in Anderson, South Carolina by a good friend of mine named Rose.
Right.
And she led me through that. And one by one, they came up and introduced themselves to me
Wow.
during that guided meditation. Yeah.
So when you do readings, you talk to them first to try to kind of.
I don't
there's
worry
just
about I
always
don't worry
them.
about who I'm talking to as long as it's, and I always do a prayer of protection and tell the bad guys to beat feet.
Okay.
And so, I trust whoever's giving me information is giving me information. There's Alice, there's Michael the Archangel, there's Anna, there's Sadie, there's Karen, there's Wesley, and there's Monica.
And none of them are kin or family.
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay. Learn something new all the time.
Yeah.
I had no idea. See,
Your mother's passed away, correct?
Who, my mom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think your mom, after she's put up with your happy ass all those years that you did here, that she's going to want to spend time in it?
I do.
Doing that again. Do you think she's going to want to take on that onus of responsibility again?
Of a spirit guide for me? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. If you believe that, have at it.
I believe it with all my heart. I think my mother, when I'm down,
And I think your mother is a benevolent spirit, but I don't think she is an appointed spirit guide. I think she can bring you energy and you can call on her. But as far as an appointed spirit guide to you, I would bet your mother would say, no, your mother would not want you to be able to fall flat on your face in order to pick yourself up and dust yourself off.
Right.
And sometimes that in life, spirit guides have to learn the lessons. You've got to be able to do that.
I didn't know any of that. I don't know. I was thinking differently about spirit guides, but I don't know. Because again, I'll tell you what happens to me real quick. When there's really something wrong and it's beyond what I think I could do or my control,
Yeah.
I will talk to my mom and say, Mom, I need your help here. I don't know what to do. please give me a sign that this is going to be okay. And I talk about this all the time. And I will literally like close my eyes, or I'll look down and then I'll look up for a sign. And believe it or not, I'll see weird stuff. Not just like a cardinal or something. One time I did it and I looked up and one blue jay, two blue jay, three, five blue jays flew into a tree in front of me and were looking down at me. I knew it was my mom. And guess what? Everything was okay.
And one night he was out there and he said, Mom, I'm having trouble with my car, and show me a sign. And there was Ronald McDonald. I mean,
See, I try. This is a joke that none of you will ever know about, by the way. So I apologize, and I'm sorry I ever told
It's
Chip
something
about
that
it.
cannot be
You cannot
shared.
share secrets with Chip because
Yes, you can.
no, you cannot.
He's not saying anything.
He's holding on
I
to that
I
card.
said nothing. I'll take
You
it.
said
Nothing.
everything
You said more
but
than Chip
Take
has
it to
said.
the grave.
everything but. He's holding on to that card for dear life, for when he really wants to throw it out there, and he will. Trust me.
So not until I write my tell-all book.
The golden
I'll wait for that one.
arches.
All right, that is it for that. Chip, thank you so much for
Um,
coming back on.
You're,
Doesn't
you're,
feel like,
you're welcome, Chris. Thanks. Yeah.
it doesn't feel like Christmas unless we're joined by the legend Chip Coffey. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know we didn't delve a whole lot into the paranormal stuff, but we love talking to Chip. Hope you guys.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Happy Hanukkah.
He is wearing his Christmas scarf.
Celebrate. If you don't sell Yule, if you don't celebrate anything at all, just enjoy life and be good to yourself and to others. If they let you be good to them, and if not,
There we go. Want to give the state bird again
Slam
before
that wall.
we sign off?
want to do what?
Give the state bird again before we.
The state bird of New Jersey.
Yes, show everyone what that. No, please don't. Chip will be back at
This
Paris.
was the thing that we did when somebody was being an a-hole at the last convention. We did one of these. This was Roger and my entourage.
Okay.
I had to ask. Why did I have to ask? We could have just ended it on the Merry
Right.
Christmas, but no, we couldn't.
Merry Christmas.
Chip
Ho, ho,
Chip
ho.
will be back at Para Unity next year. He said he can't wait to come back because he loves New Jersey
Yeah,
and he loves Newark
Yeah.
Airport.
better. So yeah,
Yeah.
There you go.
it has
yeah,
got
but the
better.
airport was better. And
Just so you know, Chip has a rider that is like
please.
10 pages long. That's a story for another day.
He's not demanding at all.
I'm gonna get the I'm gonna get a contract that matches who.
Yeah, we know.
Many
Just-
names, but just keep that filed away.
I will, just for you. Merry Christmas, Chip. Great seeing
Merry
you.
Christmas to you and Kenny and
Christmas.
everybody.
Merry Christmas, Chris. Merry Christmas, Jesus.
Thank you. Go forward in peace.
We love you too.
Take care, Chip. Good talking to you.
Mwah. Thank
Bye,
you. Chip.
everybody.
It always gets weird with Chip. I
I
have to
love Chip.
say it always gets weird, but we love him. We love Chip. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know it gets weird with Chip, no doubt about it. A lot of inside jokes.
I think
but
he's perfect.
we covered a lot there. I think. Did we cover a lot? I don't
Yes.
even know. Did
It
we?
was a real honest, open discussion, and Chip taught us a lot and talked to us a lot about different things. And that's what I love about doing these interviews with Chip, because Chip just you're not gonna get a false or an artificial person. You're gonna get a real human being, and this is what I love about him. And I love every aspect of who Chip is. He is so serious, so honest. He tells you like it is, but he's got this quirky, funny side to him that I absolutely love, which John is very uncomfortable with. But then again, I'm quirky and John gets very uncomfortable with me too. So
I went a little crazy, but he's hilarious. Open, honest discussion.
Yeah.
He's great. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, we've delved down into the paranormal with him a lot. I tried to fit it in as much as I could, but what you just saw there was basically a phone conversation that we have with Chip all
He's
the
real
time.
deal.
Chip is ask a question, get an answer. Very, very honest. And I love that about him. And Chip is like family at this point because, you know, we talk to him once a month. We give him all the gossip. He gives us all the gossip. And just, he's been great to us in the expo since we've known him. He's a bit of a pain sometimes, but.
And I always tell John,
what family
don't ask Chip a question you don't want to know the answer to, because he's going to tell you the
He's
truth.
very unique. Unique is a good word for it because he just, she's right. Just, there's people that I really like talking to honest people. Chip is one. John Zaffis is another. Jason Hawes is another. They're just shoot from the hip. I mean, you ask the question.
You're good. They're going to give you the honest
whether you
answer.
like
They're
it or
not going
not.
to tell you what you want to hear. They're going to tell you.
And I made the mistake of telling Chip a very private story of something that happened to me at a rest stop, and that's what all that stuff was about.
That's the whole
So,
McDonald's. And,
yeah, we won't be sharing
Ronald
that
McDonald
here on our Christmas show. Sorry,
it's pretty funny though.
Another story for another time. But when we come back tomorrow, we're going to be out, and then Friday night I will be back at the Creeper Gallery. I don't know if the Queen here will be joining me, but there will be a live from the Creeper Gallery this week, probably Friday night at 7:30. So thanks for watching. If you guys are just watching for the first time, I'm John. This is Chris from New Jersey Paranormal. We do a lot of live investigations, a lot of interviews, a lot of weird discussions like this one here. So stick with us a few times. We might just grow on you. You might like us. Thanks for watching.
Stay safe, stay healthy, and please, please be kind to each other, especially this time of year. Good night.
Take care, guys.